Welcome back, guys. You're watching NR4 Media and we're here at Blockchain Live 2019. And if you haven't done so already, do remember to like and subscribe and click that little button over there. And if you'd like to comment for any more videos that you'd like us to feature on or potentially find out more, especially within the technologies of blockchain, IoT, AI, anything going on with technology, please do remember to comment below. Now, I've interviewed two guests already this morning, Simon Hooper and Amina Albeyatti. Guys, thank you very much for joining me, but I've managed to now grab you back onto the show, actually, Simon, to discuss a little bit more about what you're doing right now with ReMeLife.com within blockchain and also the work that you're doing with Amina right now. So I've grabbed you both together to talk about really what you're doing right now and how are you guys, I suppose, collaborating right now, really within this space and moving things forward within blockchain. Who would like to go first?
I suppose I'll start. We are in a different space from Amina. We basically provide technology that makes it possible for a carer or a nurse to know the person, not clinical records. So we have a very close engagement with the consumer. We're able to get a loyal daily usage of our system. So we need to find partners that can provide the clinical data, the more rigorous medical content, and we will help them achieve daily engagement. So this is a perfect collaboration.
Yeah, and is that really, useful for you as well, moving forward with Medicalchain?
Yeah, definitely. A patient is more than just their clinical records. They are everything else that happens in the morning to the evening that we don't see. And sometimes that data from a carer is invaluable to change how we deal with them as a doctor. And so this kind of collaboration is exactly key to revolutionize how we deal with healthcare, and that we just change our our process in dealing with healthcare, that it's a more robust thing, 360 around the patient and putting the patient at the center of their care.
And before we just came on camera again, before our director Paul hit record, there was a really good conversation going around actually that you were having with Paul right now as well. And Simon, I think you were in on that as well there as well. Do you want to introduce really what was spoken about and really talking about the new areas that you're branching out and how the NHS is, I suppose, being impactful in itself, and you guys are trying to revolutionise the way that we're doing things in the UK, and that's having an impact on Europe as well, of course. Who'd like to go? Who'd like to go on that?
I'll just preface it by saying that it's all about the fragmentation. At the moment, we'll hear about doctors all the time being stressed and so forth, and part of it is because they don't really have time to get to know the patient. They spend, an average of 7 minutes now, something like that, whereas it used to be half an hour a few years ago, and that's because they don't have easy access to the data they need, and they don't know anything about the person. If you can change that engagement process, we know from our own evidence-based work that it will radically impact on well-being, cost issues and so forth, but we need partnerships with other providers to have a continuity of process, and that's where we were hoping to work with Amina.
Amina, would you like to add to that at all?
Yes, I think the main thing we were discussing before is this misconception that because you have an NHS number, that all your information sits there in this little pool in the NHS and your doctors can just easily tap in and access that. The reality is that your NHS number is irrelevant. It only tells you who you are and your date of birth. It doesn't give you any information about who you are, what's happened to you, what your allergies are, what happened yesterday when you were up in Manchester visiting a friend or down in London at university. And what we're trying to provide is an overall umbrella so that all that information evolves around you as the patient, and wherever you go, you take that information with you, rather than depending on your GP if they're on the ball and they've got enough staff to put everything quickly onto the system, or getting if you go to A&E at 2 o'clock in the morning, they have to call your GP to find out what's happened. If your GP is closed, everything goes on hold for the next few hours, and that's just not good enough in this day and age, and that's what we're trying to revolutionise.
I think you can add to that blockchain brings to that the vital element of trust, because consumers are very concerned about data, not just Cambridge Analytica and personal data, which is our data. Ours is very personal data about the person, obviously. So blockchain's critical for us, but it's the same for clinical data because there's massive value in that, and there's also massive exposure. You don't want necessarily an insurer knowing what your medical data has. So there has to be systems like Amina's which can ensure that consumers can trust the whole process.
And just quickly as well, before we have to unfortunately round off this interview as well, how are you guys moving forward with business? Obviously it's not necessarily early days, but obviously you've been in talks now for, I don't know, a year or so now, I would guess. But what's moving forward and what can we expect from both of yourselves collaborating in the next few years?
Well, we are behind in that, we're ahead in one respect, in that we've been in the market for 4 years, selling product to care homes and to hospitals, daycare centres. So we're in the formal care sector. generating revenue, but we're about to launch into the consumer space. But we are launching our new funding mechanism. In other words, we're going to tokenize with a utility token the engagement to incentivize that engagement. So we're launching that in Malta in November, and then after that, once we've built the infrastructure to this, we'll be partnering with Amina.
Can you add to that, Amina?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. We are hopefully going live with our myclinic.com application, which will be our healthcare marketplace in January, and that's exactly what we foresee, that we can now start putting on great services onto our platform so patients can have the choice and choose the right fit for them.
Well, guys, thanks very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Find out some great stuff. I think there's some great conferences going on. I know you mentioned earlier that there was a person who was interviewing over there or potentially speaking that you really want to go see. So I hope you obviously enjoy the rest of your day. If you'd like to find out more great content like this, do remember to like and subscribe our channel, which is nr4media.com.